We are family, but now it's time to get some breakfast on Cree. Hey, hey, hey. Get safe. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to ICNV Drivers Edition. And to my Drive Edition community, I want to say what's up. Thank you for stopping back in. And if this is your first time to the channel, my name is Swole, and this is ICNV Drivers Edition. We are an automotive channel where we talk about things going on in the car market, couple reviews, and a lot of fun things we do with cars and so forth, from car shows, car meets, to just car content completely. So, with that being said, let's get into this video. And as you all know, everybody says the car market is crashing, prices are falling, and is it really a good time to buy? Let's talk about my, I would say, 5 best picks if you're looking to get a sports car. Let's go. Before we really dive deep into this topic, I want you to understand that everyone says the car market is crashing. If you look at car prices from 5 months ago, 2 months ago, hell, even 3 months ago, the prices from then are not the prices that we're seeing today, and that is a steady trend of going down. But one thing I would like to say about that is it's really noticeable, the car market for the everyday car is not as drastic of a change in, I would say, the niche market or the sports car market or the supercar market. And actually, in some cases, some supercars have gone up. I've been following a Lamborghini for the longest, a Huracan, because I want to get my hands on one. And I saw the prices dip down across the whole nation to possibly about 180. And that was for like a 40,000 mile Lamborghini or higher. And now today, those same Lamborghini prices, there's not one below 200. So you can't really say the market is crashing on the Lamborghini market or other supercar markets unless you're talking about a McLaren. But that's a whole different conversation. Now, why is the car market changing? I've had this conversation several times before, and the biggest thing about it has always been supply and demand, and, as they say, a shortage of chips. Well, the chip shortage is probably truly over. But there are other factors that help impact why this market is crashing. I explained numerous times before that the quickest way for a car to lose value is for the rental car companies to get a car and run through them. Now, because of the car shortage over the past couple of years, rental car companies really haven't been able to rotate out their inventory. So a lot of fleet sales have been down to a minimum. Now, what does that mean? What that means is that the used car market never got the influx of rental cars to flood the market, to help bring down the market value. So when you look at it from that point, just the fact that now we're seeing more fleet sales take place this year, like Ford has had what some would say inflated sales numbers because their fleet sales have went up. You will see that Chrysler and Chevy have had increased values or increased numbers in sales because they are now finally getting back to fleet sales. The biggest thing I'm going to sit there and say, and we can talk about this in another video, Corvettes are now going, and I'm saying the base Stingray, they're now getting in the hands of rental car companies. I was at a Hertz, and they had a big sign up that says Hertz now has C8s. So that will play a factor on the C8 market going forward. But again, we will get into that into another video. Now, another reason why the car market is crashing is because we are starting to see high prices with high interest rates. That's usually unheard of. Usually you get one or the other. You either get high prices, low interest rates, or low prices and high interest rates. But having them side by side, that is a hard pill for most people that's buying cars to swallow. Then we have the supply and demand. It's no longer the days of you seeing RAV4s sell for $20,000 above MSRP. And that was also a problem. Because yes, I know many Corvette lovers like to say, oh, that GM is going to flood the market with Corvettes and the prices are going to crash. Well, that's not really your problem. The problem is many people bought RAV4s and Hyundai Santa Fe's and things of that nature for $20,000 over MSRP. And that's the market that's busting hard, because why would you stay in such a car today when you can go to the dealership and buy them for not only MSRP, some of these cars are actually selling slightly below MSRP. So what we're seeing now is a lot of people are taking a hit on their credit. They're going back in and getting a second car note and then giving back the one they overpaid for a few years ago. And so they're making a commitment to be inside of this new vehicle for 5 to 6 years. When they remove themselves from the average 3-year turnaround, it means there are less people shopping for cars. So right now, what we're seeing is we're seeing the market crash because a lot of the dealerships that overpaid for cars now are trying to get rid of these cars because they're in them too deep. So you see a handful of market adjustment cars today, but that, unless it's a niche car like a Corvette C8 Z06 or limited production red eye, you're not going to see constant payment for that type of vehicle. And so as of right now, I don't feel like the supercar market has totally busted yet, but I think its days are running short too, because what I'm seeing with the supercar markets, I'm seeing a lot of price adjustments. I've been watching a couple cars because I've been thinking about upgrading Zeus, or should I just say getting into something else that's a little bit higher caliber other than a C8 Z06. And I've seen a couple supercar prices swing 10 grand. But like I said, those mainly have been on McLarens and a couple Audi R8s and maybe an Acura NSX here and there. But for the most part, the Ferraris, the Lamborghinis, they're holding strong. So let's talk about it. I think this is the perfect time to take a quick break and ask you guys to hit that like button. Go ahead, hit that like button if you like the content you've seen so far. And join the ICNV Drive Edition community. Subscribe to the channel. Continue to help us grow, but also by joining the community, it's an interactive community. So if you leave a comment below, I will gladly respond. And if there's something you would like to talk about, hit me up on one of my social media platforms. I'll gladly get back to you with an answer. And possibly I'll make a video about the topic and drop it amongst the other videos and content that we have coming your way. So join the ICNV Drive Edition community. But for now, let's get back to this video. So the question is, how do you win in this market? And I'm going to be honest with you. If you're looking to buy a car, if you're looking to buy a high performance car, a sports car, a supercar, I want to tell you, just sit tight for maybe another 2 or 3 months. My strong belief is that dealers are slowly realizing they need to move inventory, especially dealers that aren't franchise tags. What's happened with a lot of them is they've overpaid for some cars. They're in some cars deep, and it's affecting their floor plan. If you don't understand what the floor plan is, pretty much most dealers don't own their inventory. They actually use credit to buy the cars, and then they pay interest as long as the cars sit there. So the optimum goal for most dealerships, unless they're holding rare cars that they know will get the dollar someday, is to usually rotate these cars out every 3 months. Some say 6 months. But either way, no matter how you look at it, what's actually taking place now is dealerships need to start moving this inventory, because with the market slowly declining, or some may say plummeting, dealers can't afford to sit on high priced vehicles that they overpaid for. So if you wait a little bit, you'll be able to get your hands on some nice cars. Now, how do you make this a win? The first thing I would tell you to do is, when you shop for cars, look for cars that have been on the dealer's floor let's just say for over 90 days. A car that's been sitting on a dealership for over 90 days is more likely or highly likely to be able to be negotiated. The days of walking into dealerships and saying, this is my flat price and this is what I would tell you right now, if a dealership isn't willing to negotiate a price of a car, don't mess with them. That actually baffles me because I see online so many times I went to this dealership and they were saying $10,000 over MSRP for this car. And I'm like, why don't you get online and shop? Because say for instance, if you're living in Dallas, Texas, and you're telling me that this dealership is asking over MSRP for a vehicle, but then I look right now in Texas and I see 2 hours away in Houston, there's a dealership selling it at MSRP. Why not just take the 2-hour drive to Houston? That baffles me. Or why not fly a couple hundred miles and pick up a car? Honestly, I live in Chicago. I haven't bought a car in Chicago, truthfully, since probably, I hate to say it, maybe 2012. Most of my cars now come from out of state. I've flown to Pennsylvania. I've flown to Dallas, Texas. I've even went to Florida and purchased a car. So I recognize that cars sell different values in different locations, and I can't express that enough. So traveling to get a better deal on a car, like I've said before, that's probably your best option for most people. The last thing I want to say to you is be patient and negotiate. Send offers, ask questions, do research on your cars. But if you truly feel like you're looking at a car and say for instance they got a list as $110,000 and you feel like 106 is what you want to pay or 103, say it. That starts negotiation. Some people will tell you, no, we can't do it that low. And if they say they can't do it that low, that usually opens doors for negotiation. So my thing is be patient. Don't feel like you have to buy the first car you come across, because again, the longer you sit or idle or you don't have to buy a car, the better deal you may get. I'll explain. I've been watching a McLaren 650S I've been intending to grab. My plan was I have commitments with my Corvette until the month of August is over. I saw this McLaren back in July, and I felt the price it was at was actually a fair price I was willing to pay. So I went back and forth with the owner or the salesman of this such car, and what ended up happening is he provided me with all the information I wanted. And like I've told people that were close to me, I may try to pursue this McLaren once I take care of the last event I have to attend with my Corvette. Well, just yesterday, this car has dropped $10,000 in price. Now, the funny thing about that is I never even thought of asking for $10,000 off the car. I felt like if I could get him to move $4,000, I would have bought the car. We were in talks about possibly negotiating the price of the car, and just by me sitting still, the car has dropped in price $10,000. But don't get me wrong, I actually saw the car come online, go for sale, I want to say back towards the end of May. So I've been watching the car for a while. My point is, if you be patient, it can actually work in your favor. So to finally get to the point of the video, what most of you people tuned in for, I'm going to give you my picks on some nice sports cars, or you can even say supercars, to get your hands on. That can be a great bargain. And what I mean by great bargain, if you plan to keep them 2 to 3 years, you shouldn't lose out on owning these cars. You shouldn't fall out. You shouldn't say it's a bust. You shouldn't lose a ton of money because the market has crashed. So if you're looking for some head turners or a couple steals, I would say if you're looking in the supercar market, look at the entry-level supercars of an Audi R8 or Acura NSX. As of right now, these were two cars that's just constantly been floating around $120,000 to $140,000. Even in its, I would say, peak during the pandemic and all the crazy car market infrastructure, the Audi R8 has gotten up to about 150, 160, and the Acura NSX has even crossed 180. But as of right now, you can find an influx of cars, especially if you look nationwide, right around 123,000 and lower. And so to me, and when I say lower, 119, 115. Historically, I can say this to you. I don't expect the Acura NSX to be a $60,000 or $80,000 car anytime soon. So if you can get your hands on one for lower than 120,000, I would say you're getting a steal, because realistically, this car is probably going to float in that value range for the next 2 to 3 years. It may even drop slightly below six figures, but again, like I say, I don't see this car being an $80,000 car. The Audi R8, if you look at them historically, especially the V10 versions, I don't see this car being an $80,000 car over the next 3 to 4 years. So in both cases, I would say you can probably expect to lose $10,000 to $15,000 on these cars if you own them for 3 years. But I don't expect either one of these cars to truly drop below 95,000 in 3 years. So I would say look for a car you can get your hands on for probably about 120,000 or less, and you can have your entry-level supercar for a great price. Now, if you're looking for a solid daily drivable sports car, borderline supercar, I would say look no further than the Porsche 911 Carrera or a C7 Corvette. And in both cases, I would say look at the same range, somewhere between, I'll say, 2015 through 2018. These cars, on the Porsche side, you can still find these Porsches, a Carrera S, a Carrera 4S. You can find these cars somewhere floating around $65,000 to $80,000. And I feel like this is a great price range for these cars, especially with like 38,000 miles. These cars are meant to be driven. You can drive them hard and they will last. These, for what I've always heard from a kid to today, that Porsche is one of the most reliable sports cars you can buy. It can take a beating and it will still keep going. The same thing about the Chevy Corvette. That's why it's not uncommon to see Corvettes or Porsches with over 100,000 miles. So when you look at it from that point of view, these are solid cars. So like I said, you can find a Porsche in the range of $65,000 to about $80,000, which is still a good range. And the one thing I will sit there and say to you, I'm talking about 2015s to 2018s, is that when you look at Porsches 10 years older, 15 years older, you don't see a 911 Carrera or Carrera S or Carrera 4S for $30,000 unless they're pushing 100,000 miles. So even if you get one and drive it and keep it, say, around the 60, 70,000 mile range in 3 years, guess what? There's 2006, 2008 Porsches, Carreras, Carreras that are still selling for 40 to 50 grand. So like I said, to me, this is probably the steal out of all the cars, because that Porsche market is slowly dipping, but at the same point in time, it's also climbing. And I've had conversations about Porsches with Porsche owners, dealers, and so forth. We can get into that also in another video, but it's probably your best buy if you want to maintain the most value in your car. Looking at the C7 Corvette, it's Chevy's last hurrah at the front engine Corvette. So this Corvette, unlike Corvettes of the past, has still holding a good value, and going into any version of it is doable from, I want to say, 45 for entry level to about 80,000 for a Z06. And like I said before, if you look at a C6 before the pandemic, a C6 was selling in the $30,000 range when the C7 was the only Corvette on the market. So if you can see C6 is selling for 30 grand, 33, 38, 39, Imagine what a C7 will do 3 years from now if you can get inside of one. Like I said, to me, this is a safe marketplace. You shouldn't lose more than $15,000 in value of this car over the next 3 years. But even if they are, you didn't lose out on much. You got to enjoy a car. I know I'm giving you more than 5 because my next 2 choices are really interesting cars to me. I feel like they have a unique place in the marketplace, and that is a LC 500 by Lexus and a Mercedes AMG GT. Now, as of right now, either one of these cars you can possibly get your hands on for $67,000 to $80,000. The Lexus LC 500 is also because another reliable car, so it can fall right in with that Porsche and Corvette market. And it's not crazy horsepower, but it is enough horsepower with some luxury to soothe 2 aspects of the marketplace. Now, the Lexus LC 500, especially if you can find it as a certified vehicle, and they are out there, you can get these cars almost up to, let's just say, an additional 3 or 4 years with a 0 deductible warranty and enjoy this car, beat on this car, get the performance out this car. Not a bad deal. The Mercedes AMG GT, on the other hand, it's a unique car. To me, I call it the Mercedes Corvette because it has a similar design. In my opinion, some people say it reminds them of the Porsche, but either way, you're getting a lot of power, a reasonable power, out of a car that'll float right around 70 to 80 grand. And my thing about these cars is both cars in both situations, I don't see either one of them by the next 3 years being a $50,000 car. The Mercedes is a unique place because I never expected it to be worth half its value. And if you look at it, it's almost there, but I never expected it to be worth half its value the first 6 to 8 years. So look at either one of those 2 cars. If you're looking for something different, want to be in a performance car, and again, like I said, you don't want to lose your butt off when this market changes or as this market continues to fall. Now, my last choice is just because I really like this car, and as crazy as it seems, it still holds a solid value. I'm going to say the BMW i8. If you're looking to have fun with a hybrid other than the Acura NSX, look at this car. It's not super fast, but it has everything that will pull your eyes in. It has all the characteristics of a supercar, the look, the doors, the lack of storage space. It's really not meant for 4 people. Use that back space for storing luggage or transporting things. But the BMW i8 has strongly held a nice area right around the $60,000 price range since the pandemic started. So even looking today, there are a couple that's in the higher 50s, mid to higher 50s. I don't expect the BMW i8 to be a $30,000 car in 3 years. It's the one car I believe I could possibly be wrong, but I really don't think so. I think if anything, most of the depreciation has already hit this car. And if you get this car and keep this car for 3 years, I've heard both sides of it. I heard they're really dependable, reliable. It's a great car to own. I've heard some horror stories of the car at the same time. But in either situation, if you get your hands on the right one and you can afford to maintain it and keep it up, get a warranty. But if you can keep it up running and enjoy it for the next 3 years, I feel like this car right here may take one of the smallest swings in value. So that's my prediction of the 5 cars you should grab. Sorry for taking up a little bit more of your time than I anticipated, but I hope this video was helpful and it was a fun conversation to have, because I'm responding to somebody that sent me a question saying, the market is crashing. Is there any sports cars you should be able to buy and not lose your butt off? And these are my picks. So, ICNV drivers, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Like I said before, we have interesting conversations. This is a community, and I also respond and comment to your comments if you hit me up on any social media platform. And I also make videos based on some of the comments you send me to. But as always, chase your dreams, build your visions. Don't let anybody discourage you. It's okay to be unique. But as always, stay safe, stay blessed, and I will see you in these streets. Peace.